Joanne Deni is a woman who gets results from flirting. She even tries it on with police officers on those occasions that she's arrested.
Amazing.
Looks good.
Thanks, Matt. That makes it feel so good. Real sexy.
Which puts a man called Lucas Slabazki way out of his comfort zone. Back home in Poland, the text he's just received may have triggered an alarm. Too good to be true, perhaps. But in England, his guard is down. It's from Joanne Deni, enticing him to her place for no-strings-attached sex.
He was completely fooled, which isn't a surprise because by this stage in her life, she's got men at her beck and call. It's something that she uses very much to play on her sexuality to attract men.
Lucas is attracted to Deni. He has no idea who he's dealing with.
Women tend not to become serial killers. Lucas had happened upon a woman who longed to be one.
Will she kill him? She might. Hers is an exclusive club.
She's one of only 3 women that are convicted in the UK of serial murder.
What is to be her decision the day that she sends him the come-to-bed message? She considers his fate, strokes her knife. She's excited, a woman who literally has a lust for blood. Lucas is about to discover what goes on inside the mind of a serial killer. Joanne Deni knew the big skies and rich fields of England's flatlands. Knowledge of the fen's remote ditches was useful too. Drop a body in one, and it could lie undetected for a long time. She's been collecting intelligence like this for over a decade. It was here her grisly story began to unfold. Too late to save the lives of 3 men.
Each of the men she attacked had inadvertently triggered in her a desire to kill.
Joanne Deni takes offence easily, and if she does, no man is safe.
They'd said something she didn't like or looked at her in a way she thought disrespectful, so she would kill them.
At first, she chose to attack men who displeased her, but soon dropped the pretense. She selects an arbitrary criteria for knifing any man she sees. Dog walking.
She approached 2 men in the street who were walking their dog and in broad daylight attacked them with a large knife.
She stabbed 5 men, each a frenzied attack, before finally she was caught and captured on camera, happily chatting to arresting officers.
Attempted murder and Pretty worse. A big fat black rubber.
You see the level of bravado and narcissism. She's standing in front of the clerk for murder, for taking people's lives, an attempted murder. And she gloats and says, well, yeah, at least I'm not fat or ugly. It's this, last attempt to kind of seem that I'm the one that's in control. I know what I'm doing here and no one's going to rock my confidence.
Joanne Deni occupies a rare place in the history of serial killers. A young mother from a loving family. She got a kick out of killing. Someone has to be a serial killer's first. Would it be Lucas Slabazki? He's in Peterborough, England in March 2013. Soon, he plans to return to his native Poland.
He is getting casual work at this point. His sister lives in London, building a career, and he's come over to see what he can find. His is not a settled world. He has no permanent home. At 31, he is yet to start his own family. He is a happy man. His sister describes him as the joker of the family. At this point in his life, he has no responsibilities, so he is drifting, really.
It is now he comes across Deni. Both are in the area finding work and then renting rooms where they can. She and Lucas have flirted a little. He finds it flattering. She returns his wisecracks, encourages him.
She was setting him up in a particular way. She was sending him flirtatious texts. She was asking him to come to her home.
It certainly looks like she was grooming Lucas, tempting him, trying to win his confidence.
He believed there was potential for a relationship. She, on the other hand, was just luring him into a trap.
She springs the trap on a grey March day. Her latest message gets to the point. Lucas is in no doubt what's on offer. He sets off to the address that Joanna has given him. Lucas has a transient lifestyle, not working full-time, no family strings, miles from home. He has time on his hands. A random series of text messages from someone he's just met may appear odd to some, but to him, they appear perfectly normal. Maybe this English girl just fancies him. On receiving her text, Lucas sends a message to a friend. Life, he says, is beautiful. In fact, he's in a very dangerous place.
Deni can sense his vulnerability at this point. He has nothing else to do but come and see her. He will be alone. She will be ready.
You've got this situation where on the one hand you have someone wondering about whether or not they're going to have sex, and you have someone else wondering about whether or not they're going to kill the other person.
Deni was making up her mind. How far will she go with her violent fantasies?
She later told friends that she wanted to know just how cold she was. She admits knowing that she cannot feel for other people.
Lucas reads the text message one last time. Today is going to be fun. What had made Joanne Deni the woman she had become by 2013? An aimless 31-year-old mother of two drifting from bedsit to bedsit. As a child, she was a model daughter, not displaying any hint of psychopathic tendencies.
For many serial killers, you begin to see very early on that they're not engaging with their surroundings, that there's difficulties, that they're harming perhaps animals, or they're taking comfort in the hurt of other people. This wasn't the case for her.
If you look at her childhood, it would appear to be trauma-free and relatively normal.
She, as evidenced by reports from her sister and her parents, was a very happy, engaged young girl, at least till the age of 13.
There were simply no signs of what was to come. At 12, she was enthusiastic at sports and good in class.
In fact, she was a really good student, so good that her parents were paying for extra tuition to ensure that she was able to reach her goal of becoming a lawyer.
So we have a normal, achieving, caring, functioning 12-year-old, and then it all changes.
And then at 15, there is a dramatic change in her character.
She skips school, hangs out with a group of older boys.
She's abusing drugs, she's abusing alcohol, she's sexually active, and by the time she's 16, she's actually moved out of the house and is living with an older man.
Who could have known she would become such a troubled adolescent?
There's clear indications that Joanne Deni had a drink and drug problem, but there's also clear indications that she had other kinds of mental illness and was known to the local psychiatric service from a relatively young age. So it's quite clear that there was a combination of drink and drugs and to a degree mental illness that was influencing her behaviour.
For money, Joanne gets casual work on farms, but she develops an expensive dependency on alcohol. Her boyfriend knows that some days she asks to be paid in booze, and he sees what it does to her.
Alcohol makes Joanna extremely violent, so we know that even in this first relationship, whenever she's under the influence of drugs or alcohol, she becomes very aggressive. She'll beat him up, she'll become very violent towards him.
By now aged 22, the transformation from Deni the conforming child to Deni the threatening, dysfunctional adult is all but complete.
Well, all the evidence would suggest that Joanne Deni is deceitful, irresponsible, impulsive, lacking in remorse and empathy, and completely focused on her own needs. They are all the traits of psychopathy.
Some of her friends recalled strange sexual habits. She would take out her own knife, hold it to her throat, and matters escalated.
She was a self-harmer. She would cut her stomach and arms whilst having sex.
People around her are identifying her behavior as really problematic. So her partner is frightened of her, and they have 2 children now, and he takes the children with him and gets full custody and goes as far away as he can.
Years of erratic sadomasochistic behaviour follow as Deni moves from low-rent bedsit to down-at-heel room, picking up odd jobs, turning to prostitution, and eventually being arrested for violent behaviour. She will be diagnosed with a psychotic condition.
She in fact has a sexual paraphilia where she enjoys sadomasochism. That's not only inflicting pain on herself, but actually inflicting pain on others and getting real pleasure from that.
This was the woman who Lucas Slabazki considered as simply the frisky girl who sent come-to-my-bed text messages, the wild English woman who offers sex acts should he come over. He's outside her door when he sends a reply.
Anyone would deduce, looking at the text messages sent, that she was luring him into a trap, and that clearly suggests that she had, to a degree, premeditated what she intended to do.
Premeditated, a key turning point in her story, a cold, rational set of decisions to make something happen, to lure a man to her side. But what else has she planned? So far, she's never killed.
From what we know, the only person she has turned her knife on was herself, as she self-harmed. She always has it with her, even when having sex. And some of her partners do say she was very scary to be with.
It is cold as she opens the door to Lucas. She beckons him in. He looks at her, perhaps spotting for the first time the star tattoo she has beneath her right eye. Behind her back, her favourite knife. Their eyes meet. Life for Lucas is so exciting in England. Will Joanne Deni use the knife that she has sharpened endlessly, hour after hour, on an unsuspecting man? He thinks he's struck lucky with the woman who he has known for just a few days. Would he have considered himself lucky if he knew of her past?
Almost exactly a year before this moment, a psychiatrist had diagnosed Deni as having an antisocial personality disorder and an obsessive-compulsive disorder.
Deni weighs up what to do. Have sex or kill the man? Or both?
Lucas is in a world of danger, and there are no warning signals.
Joanne Deni is a woman that thrives on confrontation, and the natural follow-on for that is that she actually enjoyed the physical element of the violence that she inflicted on the men and the control she was able to inflict on these men.
She was immensely powerful. She had actually worked as an enforcer for loan sharks. Joanne Deni is strong.
Lucas sees the knife. Too late. She strikes.
She plunged the knife into his chest.
Deni's habit when knifing her victim was to smile. The last thing Lucas Slabazki will have seen would have been the grinning face and demented eyes of his killer. He died almost immediately. 31-year-old Lucas had come to England to learn the language, earn money to send home to his mother, and have some fun. His guard down, he had become the perfect victim for Joanne Deni. Her honey trap had worked. She knew it would. She had a way with men.
She had no problem attracting men. From her school days, they would bend to her will. Older boys in the same school, slightly older men she would come across, they would all do her bidding.
It was time to call on one of the Deni men for help. She needs a little muscle to get rid of the body of Lucas Slabazki. The first of her go-to male followers that she considers is Gary Stretch. When Deni had met him, Stretch was in the same drifter's world as hers. He's a giant, standing over 7 feet 3 inches tall. At one point in his life, things had appeared normal. He had married, been a genuinely devoted father. He had issues. His real name was Gary Richards, and he suffered from gigantism. He grew beyond 7 feet. He adopted the name Stretch as a strategy to deflect constant teasing. He became a petty thief and eventually split from his wife. But Stretch was no criminal mastermind. He'd once burgled an office only to steal a single chocolate, also leaving behind his fingerprints, leading to his arrest.
There is something absurd about Gary Stretch. She quickly spots a potential accomplice, a willing volunteer in her life.
The pair make an unlikely couple. Stretch almost certainly feels wanted, needed. He's very self-conscious.
There's evidence to suggest that he was actually really insecure, not only about his height, but also his looks and his intelligence.
His almost pathetic devotion can be seen in letters that he wrote to her whilst both were behind bars. He tells her she'll never meet another man like him, that she can always count on him. Stretch becomes a classic Deni poodle, answering to her commands.
In fact, his own lawyer described him as a nodding dog. He said by the end of his relationship with Joanna, whatever she said, he did without question.
I think Stretch was working as a minder in many respects for Deni. She trusted him, she helped him, and there was some sort of mutual agreement between them.
You'd think that, because of his size, he'd be very domineering and dominating, but in fact, not at all. He's actually very malleable. It may be that he's actually overcompensating for his size.
In his later letters, Stretch signs himself as Dennehy's undertaker. He has every reason to.
So once she's killed Lucas, she gets Stretch to help put him in a bin, and she's proud of this.
She used those men as her removal men, for want of a better expression, to help her dispose of the bodies, which quite clearly was her way of manipulating them and involving them in a crime in the hope that they would, by being complicit, not speak.
Don't forget that, a big part of the high of killing is to let people know that you've done that. There's an exhibitionist element, certainly in Joanna's case. And so she calls over a teenage friend, lifts the top of the bin up and says, "Hey, look what I've done."
She was focused on the notoriety that her actions would give her in time. So there's that element of wanting to be seen as bad and scary and really dangerous, which is part of her character.
The body went undiscovered. Lucas would regularly go days without contacting his sister in London or his parents in Poland. Nobody he loved knew he was dead. For now, he remained discarded in a large domestic refuse bin. A teenage friend and Gary Stretch bent to Dennehy's will, saying nothing.
She was a woman that was very focused on control, very focused on control of men in her life, and she used her sexuality to help her control those men.
The next of the men under her spell is Kevin Lee. On release from prison for an earlier offence, Dennehy is homeless. She tours Peterborough looking for a room, and she comes across a lettings agency run by Kevin Lee. He unwittingly enables the next killing chapter of her life story. But would he also become a Dennehy target? She asks him for help finding a place to stay.
Lee's business partner did not like the look of her and recommended that they decline the business to let her find her own place to live.
Dennehy owned up to having just got out of jail and said that she needed somewhere to start a new life. Played the sympathy card.
Lee was impressed by Dennehy's honesty. He fell under her spell, if you like.
The couple began an affair. Later, Dennehy would say that she found Lee's advances unwelcome, but in reality, she encouraged them.
The only reason Joanne Deni was involved in seeing Kevin Lee was that he enabled her to have access to properties and basically supplied her with accommodation.
So she uses her tried and tested techniques for enticing men to do this. She uses her sexuality. She meets an estate agent who she begins to sleep with.
So it was a mutually advantageous relationship. She supplied him with sex, he supplied her with accommodation.
Kevin Lee quickly found his new lover unsettling, scary.
He told a friend that she was a cross between a character in the film Kill Bill and the Terminator. Violent, aggressive, armed. She was a frightening person to be around.
But the relationship continues. She gets a job helping Kevin Lee in the letting business. Her presence was so intimidating that she was sent to make bad payers part with their rent. Throughout this time, she moves from one bedsit to another. After killing Lucas, she moves to another house where a man called Leslie Layton lives. He too will become a Dennehy man in time. For now, she's focused on still another man she's come across, John Chapman. Chapman knows about violent death. As a young man, he had served as a sailor, seeing active duty in the Falkland Islands for the Royal Navy. At 56, he was no longer the fit, fighting man that he had been. His dependency on alcohol rendered him very vulnerable.
He was a man that was living in the same home as her.
The pair shared a bathroom in the house. One day, the door slightly ajar, Dennehy thought she saw, as she bathed, Chapman glance in her direction. He may have done, he may not have done. But Dennehy had chosen her next victim. On the evening of Good Friday, March 29th in 2013, Chapman took drugs. He also drank high-strength alcohol. He was soon in no state to defend himself.
Apparently was drunk, unconscious, and that really suggests that she just completely disliked the man and that she felt an overwhelming need to kill, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Chapman was like a lamb to the slaughter, still conscious, but only just.
Dennehy waited until her housemate was drowsy, lying prone on a sofa in the grubby lounge that the two shared. Was he about to become victim number 2 of a serial killer? John Chapman lies on a sofa, barely, if at all, awake. Dennehy attacks.
She used the same knife as the one she had killed Lucas with. She stabs Chapman. He stood no chance. Somewhere in his shocked, addled mind, he probably knew enough to realize that he was dying.
Within seconds, Joanne Deni has taken the life of victim number 2. She stabs Chapman in the neck, then 5 times in the chest. Hers is a wild, merciless, bloodthirsty attack.
Someone that uses a knife, it's very savage. There's normally a lot of blood, and someone that repeatedly stabs someone, that would be a frenzied attack, consistent with a huge amount of violence and trauma.
Again, she needs help from her growing band of male assistants.
She has such little value for life. One of the comments made by the police is that when she kills again, she calls up Gary Stretch, and her words are something to the effect of, "Oops, I did it again." And that's how she lets him know that she's got another kill that she needs help with cleaning up.
Dennehy and Stretch call on the help of Dennehy's other housemate, Leslie Layton, another social misfit living in a world of drugs and drink, another man in Dennehy's thrall. When he saw the body, Leslie Layton displayed his own contempt for human life.
Layton got his phone and took a photograph of the body, a trophy to show his friends, perhaps, or a big moment to look back on when he was bored. Layton had become yet another man in Dennehy's thrall, but he was already a damaged man.
As with the murder of Lucas, Dennehy had chosen a victim that few would mourn or miss. Chapman also lived in the world of misfits, no job, no close family, few real friends, drink his companion. Indeed, when news eventually filtered out of his death, those that knew him sprinkled high-strength cider near the door of his home as a tribute. But in the immediate hours after his death, nobody was looking for his killer. The three move both bodies into the countryside east of Peterborough. They were discarded in one of the open ditches which crisscross the English fenlands, the ones Deni knew so well. What was going on inside the mind of the serial killer, Joanne Deni? She's excited. She finds the whole episode invigorating.
She likes the smell, the essence of blood. This is something that she boasts about when she's interviewed, but more than that, she actually never washes her knife. She likes the idea of having the blood on it, of smelling it, of reliving the situation. So for her, it literally is a story of bloodlust.
And a lust which is not sated.
She wants to kill again.
And to kill again immediately. She returns to the house where she has killed Lucas and sends a trail of text messages to entice her next victim. Deni has an audience to her grisly show. The men that she has surrounded herself with are now aware that she's a double killer. Far from worrying her, far from suspecting they may turn her in, she feels she's impressing them.
There is something else going on here that we see with multiple murderers throughout time, the concept of folie à deux. Deni's cohorts, the men in her life, become an audience. Whether they know it or not, they become people she wants to impress. She is killed, they show her respect. She must kill again to keep that respect.
Those who later analyse Deni's behaviour also tell of another motivation for murder: sexual. She's getting turned on.
When she would masturbate, she would cut herself. So this association between violence and sex, between knives and pain and cutting and sex, is something very, very upmost in her mind, something that she gets a high off of. So we know that she gets a sexual high off of killing.
Deni only targets men as both victims and friends. Given the bisexuality that she freely talks of, is this further evidence of a key motivating factor for her deeds?
There are too many examples of men who kill women because they hate them, a hatred caused by repressed sexuality. There are very few cases where women become serial killers for the same reason, but that may be what has happened in the case of Joanne Deni.
It is March 30th, 2013, and Joanne Deni has now killed twice. Who would be next? Kevin Lee, her boss and lover, is another man bent to the will of Joanne Deni. Unlike Lucas Slabazki, who was separated from his family and homeland, or John Chapman, who drifted into a netherworld of alcohol abuse, Lee has a loving family nearby. His letting business is at the low rent end of the market. Occasionally there can be trouble, bad payers, nuisance behaviour. That, it seems, is why he likes Joanne Deni. She would sort out the tenants in arrears. That, and the sex that she offers him.
And in return, she got a place to live and another man at her beck and call.
If control is what she seeks, that's certainly something that she has. At this point in her life, she's got absolute control over 3 men. She clicks her fingers and they come running.
With Lee, there was something else motivating him.
As well as enjoying the easy, no-strings, often exotic sex he had with Deni, he felt genuine compassion for her.
Would he pay the price of an error of judgment? After killing John Chapman, Deni went shopping for booze. When she returns, Deni sends another text message to Kevin Lee. Will he meet her at her old bedsit? Lee reads the message and tells a colleague that he's going out. What had the text said? He tells his friends. Joanna says she's going to dress me up as a woman and rape me. She's done this before. It's one of a series of highly sexualized messages that he receives which display the unusual, often extreme sexual demands that Deni would make and which intrigue Kevin Lee. Each time this has happened in the past, they would have sex. But each time, she would consider killing him. He leaves his office. It is 2 o'clock. How could Kevin Lee be so gullible? If he was not alone.
Over and over again, she'll put it out there and say to men, come over, I want to have sex with you.
It works every time. She needs Gary Stretch. She calls him and he comes running. She wants Leslie Layton to run an errand. He's just a message away.
And she does this with the letting agent. He comes over, normally they have sex, normally it goes fine, he leaves, but on this one occasion, she takes it that step further.
Now she has Kevin Lee also doing her bidding.
She is alone in the house where just 4 days earlier Deni had killed Lucas Slabazki. Always with her, a knife, constantly sharp. She makes sure of that. Kevin Lee is en route. She may have sex with him. She may kill him. Which will it be? Kevin Lee drives to the house on this estate in Peterborough. It is broad daylight. Behind the net curtains, locked doors, closed windows, nobody in the neighbourhood has any idea that a man has already been murdered in one of the houses and that another life, that of Kevin Lee, hangs in the balance. Deni opens the door, beckons her lover inside, then stabs him 5 times. Unlike her other victims, the first cuts were not enough to completely subdue Kevin Lee. He fights back, but nothing could save him from Deni's savagery.
By this point in her story, Joanne is out of control. She's actually wanting to kill. She's on a killing high.
Outside, life goes on. Normal people doing normal things. The community oblivious, as applying the same savagery as she had done twice before, Deni repeatedly stabs Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee had known Joanne Deni for just a few months. In that time, she had become his lover, killed 2 men, and now she has killed him.
The men that Joanne Deni killed were men that were in her life, and there were men that were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. When you look at the first man that she killed, he was really just a potential suitor. You look at the second man that she killed, he was a man living in the house, the same house where she was lodging. And if you look at the third man that she killed, he was her lover. So they were just men that were part of her life that were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Chillingly, amongst her motives, pleasure.
When you overlay the fact that she had a sexual interest in sadomasochistic sex, one is drawn to a conclusion that she may have got some sexual pleasure or arousal from the murder of these men.
As the life of her victim ebbed away, Deni was already planning her next step. She had 2 bodies to get rid of on 2 houses on a densely populated housing estate. She needs her men.
She summons Gary Stretch and Leslie Layton to the house and orders them to help get rid of their bodies. They simply comply.
As Stretch cleans up the blood, Deni did as she had promised with Kevin Lee. Dressed him up in her clothes, committed further acts to his body.
Even in death, she wanted to humiliate him as well.
Leslie Layton, meanwhile, was getting rid of Kevin Lee's car, just as instructed, before all 3 drive deep into the countryside and dump Kevin Lee's body in a ditch, deliberately positioning it so his rear was exposed.
The contempt that she has for her victims is evidenced by the way that she disposes of them. In this one case, she puts this guy in a ditch and goes out of her way to expose him. She exposes his backside, leaves him there. It's a bit of a joke for her. It's just something that she does. This person is not really a person. It's a means to an end.
Deni needs a place to hide out. She is certain, and she is right, that someone will stumble across the bodies. It was time to enlist yet another man to her cause. Robert Moore had earlier allowed a tarpaulin from his home to be used to wrap around the body of John Chapman. Now he will provide a safe house.
Robert Moore is another man in her life that she's able to control. She needs help. She just puts out a phone call to him. He comes. He helps. No questions asked.
Moore provides Deni and Stretch's home to hide out for 2 more days. After laying low for 48 hours, moving to another hideout, Deni and Stretch set off for Hereford, a border town between Wales and England. Stretch knew the place. The couple burgle a house in a remote area nearby and hook up with local criminals to offload their stolen goods. They then pick up a minor local criminal, Mark Lloyd, who knew nothing of the murders, and asked him to help them navigate their way around Herefordshire. At first, he allows himself to be swept up in the mania of the day, posing for photographs. He goes shopping with Deni. The couple captured on security cameras entering a store, acting perfectly naturally. Positively jovial, almost intimate. They both flirt with the assistant. Deni compliments her on her figure, asks her to spin around so she can admire it. Then they leave.
There's some CCTV footage of her going into a shop and just talking with a girl behind the counter and saying, you know, you look pretty, turn around, and the girl's turning around. It just seems like this really normal interaction. And it's testament to how cool she was about this. For her, killing wasn't something to be concerned with or worried about. This was something that's going to give her a high. This was a bit of fun. This was, for her, nothing more than enjoying a day out. This wasn't about the victim. This was about her enjoying the pain that she was going to inflict. And she could do that and at the same time speak to people and giggle and just have a good time.
The latest man that she has enrolled into her cause is to be dumbfounded at what happens next. Deni has not killed for days. She wants to rectify that. As they cruise around an area of this quiet market town, she issues Stretch with an instruction. 3 murders are not enough. She wants to kill again and again, to have some fun. She has a hero to emulate.
Quite clearly, she was focused on killing these men in a very short time period. And there is a suggestion that she was keen on the notoriety that would bring her, and there was some suggestion that she was focused on the 9 murders committed by Bonnie and Clyde.
She told Stretch it was time she had some fun. He was to stop the next time that he saw a man walking a dog.
That's it. I want to kill somebody with a dog. That's what I'm going to do. And so she gets in a car and she's literally looking around for a person with a dog to kill.
Robin Bereza is a retired fireman. He likes to keep fit. That day, he decided at the last moment not to go on his usual jogging route, but instead to walk the dog.
The first person she spots with a dog, she jumps out of the car and she starts stabbing him. Now, this man survives, but while she's stabbing him, he stops and he says, "Why? Why are you doing this to me?" Her response is very simple. "Because I can. I want you to die."
Stretch provides her getaway car. Robin Bereza survived, but was badly hurt, physically and emotionally scarred for life. He had been the victim of a random attack. Deni was not finished. Her target not dead. Only killing satisfies her now.
So she goes on the hunt again.
Another man walking his dog, John Rogers, comes into view of Deni and her sidekick Stretch. Again, he cruises up behind her target, and again she attacks. She stabs him repeatedly in the back. He falls and she stabs him in the chest, again, over and over, 30 times in all. Deni grabs his dog, runs back to the car.
She was convinced this poor man was dead, and that is the only reason she ran away.
John Rogers survived, but was never the same man again and died from an unconnected illness later that year. Within an hour, Deni and Stretch were captured.
Clearly, if she'd not been arrested when she was, there would have been other people attacked on that day in the same way.
It was time for Deni to seize the centre stage. In front of officers, she gloated, flirted with the desk sergeant.
You're very distinct survivor, isn't it? It's alright.
Yeah, I'll pluck them.
You go right up.
It's all
It's a real strict diver.
It is all routine to a woman who has killed 3 times and tried to kill another 2 times. She is vain, does not want to be placed in a police suicide suit.
Suicide suit. Shorts and massive. Yeah. Paper suits.
They are big shorts.
Wrap them around the time.
Okay, so you've got...
For most people, her actions are incomprehensible, but these scenes when she's arrested take our understanding of Joanne Deni to a new level. She has absolutely no sense of remorse.
In police interviews, Deni at first has nothing to say about the murders.
Did you murder Lucas Slabazki?
No comment.
Did you murder Kevin Lee?
No comment.
Did you murder John Chapman?
No comment.
But at her trial, surrounded in court, she seizes her moment, pleads guilty.
It's like she's proud of what she's done. She's taking her metaphorical bow. She's enjoying what she sees as her applause.
Joanne Deni admitted to finding killing Moorish.
It's rare to come across female serial killers, but I think with Joanne Deni, just the level of contempt that she had for human life, the level of just joy that she took out of inflicting pain and harm, I think arguably make her one of the worst female serial killers that we know of.
As for the men in her life who survived, the judge said that he accepted that Gary Stretch was under the thrall of Dennehy, but still gave a sentence of life with a minimum 19 years to be served before parole is considered. Leslie Layton was given 14 years for his offence. Robert Moore was also described by the judge as being under a spell cast by Dennehy. He was given 3 years in prison. As for Dennehy herself, the judge was scathing in his observations of her conduct, sentencing her to a full life tariff. She will never be released from prison.
I think there's a danger in overthinking the way in which Joanne Deni selected her victims. I think that she wasn't that particularly focused on who they were. They were just men in the wrong place at the wrong time.